So since this theorem is like bigger one, I'm recording the class and I'll share the video also. If you want to watch that and read after that, you can watch later. I'll do the class now and I recorded the video also. Okay. So now we'll go for Stone-Weierstrass theorem. There are so many mistakes in this theorem. You have to, I suggest you to correct by now itself. So let f of x be a continuous, let f of x be a continuous, real or complex. Like this theorem is true for complex also, but we are not going for complex. So we don't need this. Let f of x be a continuous real valued function defined on the interval a comma b. Then there exists a polynomial Pn of x such that limit n tends to infinity Pn of x is equal to f of x uniformly on the interval a comma b. So what it means? First thing is f of x be a continuous real valued function. It means the value f of x belongs to real space. So f will be defined from R to R itself. That is, for any x belongs to R, f of x belongs to R itself. That is the first meaning. So f of x be a continuous real valued function defined on the interval a comma b. So sometimes the real space will write in terms of this interval a comma b, because in one dimension interval a comma b, if you are not defined a comma b, it is a subset of real space only. When a is equal to minus infinity and b is equal to plus infinity, it will be whole real space. So there exists a polynomial Pn of x such that limit n tends to infinity Pn of x is equal to f of x. So if you have f of x is continuous, then there will be a sequence of function polynomials. What is polynomial? Polynomial will be something like what we call, will have a highest power. It will be in this form, a1 x power n, or to say a0 plus a1 x plus a2 x square plus dot 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 till an x power n. So something of this kind, a function of this kind is called polynomial. So Pn of x such that the sequence of Pn of x converges to f of x, which can be written in this form also, limit n tends to infinity Pn of x is equal to f of x uniformly on the interval a comma b. So we are combining uniform convergence here. We already talked about uniform convergence. What is that? So for all x belongs to the interval which is there here, and for all n greater than or equal to m, we have modulus of fn of x minus f of x less than epsilon. That is the definition of uniform convergence. So we use that also here, and there are so many things other than that we are going to use here. So the main aim is to show here is you have given a function f of x continuous function. Okay, that is the first thing given, real valued function, and there will be set of polynomial or sequence of polynomial which will converge to this f of x. So that is given, there exists. Then we have to show there will be some set of polynomials which will converge to any continuous function f of x. We have given any continuous function f of x, then there will be set of polynomials or sequence of polynomials which will converge uniformly to f of x. Uniform convergence, we always talk about sequence of functions, right? And polynomial, this polynomial set is a sequence of functions. So I can I had to prove there exists a polynomial Pn of x such that limit n tends to infinity Pn of x is equal to f of x. So don't worry much about this second line, which is not properly given. So we'll go for the proof. So given f of x is continuous on the interval a comma b. So without loss of generality, we assume that a is equal to 0 and b is equal to 1. How? There are two things to understand here. One is, it may be done in your topological classes or may not be done. This interval a comma b has isomorphism with the interval 0 comma 1. That is to say, whatever you would prove for 0 to 1 can be extended to any closed interval. So there is some theorem of that kind in topology. So if you have any theorem for the interval 0 comma 1, it can be extended to a comma b. But we are not going to do that exactly here. We are doing a little bit different, but we'll understand what we are going to do here. It means what we'll do is we'll restrict a comma b to the interval 0 comma 1. That's what we are going to do here. It means the function will be varied in the interval 0 comma 1 only. Let's say if you have this whole interval a and this still here b. So now I'll take part of that. So this is 0 and this is 1. So if you have the function f, what we'll do, from here to here I'll make it as 0 only. Then it changes in this place, it will vary. Once again when it becomes 1, it will become 0 only. That's how we are going to define. Only in the interval 0 comma 1 the function will vary. The rest all places it will be the value 0 itself. So this will be f of x. So that's how we are going to do. I'll show that. So this is a completely constructive proof. It's like we will construct little bit in one place and we construct something else in that, and at the end we use all that together to prove something. That's what we are going to do. So our ultimate aim is to show limit n tends to infinity Pn of x is equal to f of x. It means this converges uniformly means we have to show for all x belongs to interval a comma b, and for all n greater than or equal to m, modulus of Pn or absolute value of Pn of x minus f of x is less than epsilon. That's what we are going to prove. So this is our ultimate aim, and we don't know what is the Pn of x, what is the polynomial which converges to the continuous function f of x. So we have to construct the Pn of x itself of a polynomial which is a general polynomial. It's not a particular polynomial because f of x is any continuous function. So we ourselves will define Pn of x which will converge to f of x. So given f of x a polynomial on the interval a comma b, without losing generality, we'll do a is equal to 0 and b is equal to 1. So further, we also assume that f of 0 is equal to 0 and f of 1 is also equal to 0. So even at end point, the function will become 0 itself. That's what it means. I told that the whole line, if it is a and this is b, a and b, and this is 0 and 1. What we'll do is till here we make 0, then it will change, and once again it will become 0. So f of 0 is equal to 0 and f of 1 is equal to 0 means at these points also it will be 0 only. F of 0 is equal to f of 1 is equal to 0. Now we define a new function g of x as, how will we define g of x? G of x is equal to f of x plus x into f of 0 minus f of 1 minus f of 0, where x is in between 0 and 1. So we are defining this function g of x for the interval 0 and 1. We are not talking for the outside thing. We are defining g of x only in the interval 0 and 1, and we'll take it as equation number 1. So if you just check, if I put x is equal to 0, what it will be? This x will become 0 and this entire thing will be vanish, and this will be f of 0 minus f of 0. So you can cancel this out. Already f of 0 is equal to 0, but still I am telling. So g of 0 will be 0. Suppose if I take g of 1 here, then what it will be? F of 0 and minus f of 1. This f of 0 will cancel with the f of 0 here, and f of 1 will cancel with f of 1 here. So once again I will get g of 1 is equal to 0 itself. So that's how we constructed g of x. That is, when x is equal to 0, g of x is equal to 0, and when x is equal to 1, g of x is equal to 1. But g of x is constructed in terms of f of x itself. So, which is such that g of 0 is equal to 0 and g of 1 is equal to 0. So thus g of x can be approximated by a polynomial if and only if f of x can be approximated. So if you can, f of x is, g of x depends on f of x. So whatever changes you do, approximation for f of x, it will do for g of x also. Okay. So now there is not much things done with g of x after this. This is there for only to generalize, not anything else. We play with f of x itself hereafter. We are not talking anything about g of x. So we assume that, okay, we are not talking about anything this or any this kind after this. So we assume that f of x is equal to 0 for all x not belongs to 0, 1. So that's what I told just now. I did 0 and 1, right? This is A and B means 0 and 1. Till here it will be 0, till here also 0. Only here it will vary. Okay. So that's what they are telling. For all x not equal to 0, 1, f of x will be 0 only. The function will be 0 only. So f of x is uniformly continuous. It is not uniformly convergent, it is uniformly continuous. Remember that the function f of x is uniformly continuous over the entire real line. Now the question is, what is the definition of uniformly continuous? So for any x, y belongs to the interval a, b, okay, f of x minus f of y will be less than epsilon whenever x minus y is less than delta. So this is the definition of uniform continuous. See, this is a little bit different way of looking at continuity. Uniform continuous means it's continuous everywhere. It is continuous uniformly everywhere. It means, see, when you talk about continuity, the definition changes little bit. It will be like f of x minus f of x naught is less than epsilon for x minus x naught less than delta. So here it was f of x naught, but here it is f of y. So in this, the definition of continuity, what we did is we talked about some particular case. For a particular point f of x, a particular part x0, we are looking is it continuous or not. But here we are talking the entire line, or like if you take any 2 points in the interval a comma b, and if you find the difference between that, the value difference should be less than epsilon whenever the x minus y difference is less than delta. If x minus y difference is not less than delta, we are not talking about this. Whenever x minus y distance is less than delta, this absolute value of f of x minus f of y should be less than epsilon. So this is what uniform continuous function definition is. So here, f of x is continuous uniformly because in the entire line, if you define f of x is equal to 0 other places, and inside one, if it is continuous, f of x is continuous inside, then it is continuous everywhere uniformly. So you can go back to uniform continuous definition and understand this better. Now we define Qn of x, a function. So this is, as I already told, it is a constructive proof. We are trying to have a polynomial which converges to, we are trying to have a polynomial Pn of x which converges to f of x. So construction of Pn of x is little bit lengthy. So first we'll construct Qn of x, or we'll define a Qn of x. So let Qn of x is a polynomial which can be defined as Cn into 1 minus x square power n, for x is in between minus 1 and plus 1. So where the constants Cn are so chosen that without that the integration of Qn of x, or with that the integration of this Qn of x dx should be equal to 1. Since you can't ask why I'm getting all these things, we are not getting this, we are just researching something to construct Pn of x. So we assume a polynomial, we have to show some polynomial exists. So we are trying to have like a polynomial which will converge to f of x. So if we are trying to have a Qn of x, a Cn such that integration of Qn of x dx should be equal to 1 for all n equal to 1 to till infinity. We'll take it as equation 3. So to show that, we are doing something else also. Okay. So this 3, let it be there. Okay. Don't worry about that. Let it be there. So we are constructing something else now. So this is a part. There is no connection with these two things. Now I am constructing something else now. So consider a function, one more function, phi of x, that is equal to 1 minus x square power n minus 1 plus nx square. There is no bracket. Bracket is cancelled here. So correct that. 1 minus x square power n minus 1 plus nx square, and take it as equation 4. So now I'm just checking, is this phi of x is increasing or decreasing, or is it phi of x is greater than 0, because I need that at the end. So first I will take x is equal to 0, phi of 0 will be equal to 0 only, because this will become 0, only 1 will remain, even this will become 0, only 1 minus 1 will be there, it will cancel and it will become 0. Now I will differentiate this phi of x first. So phi dash of x will be equal to, differentiate this one first. So it will be n into differentiation of the inside thing 1 minus x square, which is minus 2x. So you get minus 2nx into 1 minus x square power n minus 1. That is, we use chain rule of differentiation. If you don't remember that, go back and search what is that. And differentiation of minus 1 is 0, and differentiation of minus nx square will be, it's not minus nx square, plus nx square will be 2nx. So I can rewrite this as, I will take 2nx common out, and I will write this one, because its minus sign is there, I will write it later. The one which was remaining, I will write like this, 1 minus x square power n minus 1. We just took 2nx common from both of this, and we wrote this term first, that is 1, and this term next. Take it as equation 5. So for any point x in between 0 and 1, which will look like 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.5, something like that, all decimal values. Positive value but decimal, which is greater than 0 and less than 1. So if you put any value of that instead of x square will be a value less than that. So if you have taken x is equal to 0.5, x square will be less than 0.5. It will be like 0.25. A 0.25 is less than 0.5. So whatever value you will take, it will be less than the value you have taken. And it is always 1 minus x square will be less than 1 itself. So 1 minus x square is less than 1. So once again it will be some decimal 0.5, 0.6 something, power n plus 1. So if you increase this 0.5, once again I told 0.5 square will be less than 0.5. So whatever decimal point you take, its power go on increasing, the value go on decreasing. So if 0.5 power 3 means, it will be like 0.125. As I remember, I don't know exactly, 0.125, which is less than 0.5. So same way, if you increase this 3 to 5, 6, 7, the value go on decreasing. So this whole value will be less than 1 itself. This whole value will be less than 1. Multiplied by the x, which is less than 1. But always this will be a positive number. It will be less than 1, and the values will be always in between 0 and 1. And now it is depends on n only. If you increase the n, it will be greater than 1 also. But phi dash of x will be always greater than 0. It cannot be negative at all. That is our concern. So if phi dash of x is greater than 0, phi of x is an increasing function. This is how we will find increasing and decreasing function. Increasing function, decreasing function, finding maxima, minima, and all by using this idea, which you have studied in your +2 classes. How to find maxima, how to find minima, how to find increasing function, how to find decreasing function. To find the increasing function, phi dash of x should be greater than 0. To find decreasing function, phi dash of x should be less than 0 for all x belongs to the interval which is given. So phi of x will be greater than 0 for all x belongs to the interval 0, 1. How? Because it's an increasing function, and we know what is phi of x also. By comparing with these two things, by just taking the values, I can say it's always greater than 0. So that is what we needed now. Phi of x is greater than 0, which is needed for us. If you ask how is that, okay, it is given that phi of 0 is equal to 0 itself by substituting here, and it is given an increasing function, right? So the value should be greater than 0 itself. So whatever value of x you take from 0 to 1, 0 is the first value, whatever value you will take after that, phi of x value should be greater than 0 only. So now I will take phi of x. This function is greater than 0, and I can take this -1 and nx square one more side. If you have that, phi of x is greater than 0, So 1 minus x square power n is greater than 1 minus nx square by using this. Then it went another say 1 minus 1 became plus 1 and minus plus 10x square became minus 10x square. For all x belongs to the interval 0, 1. Take it as equation 6. So we are going to use this later. So just take it as equation 6. So this is some second part. Now we take this which we already defined, phi n of x, where Cn will be less than Cn. We will choose Cn in term by using this constraint. So okay, we will just use this and not this one. Sorry, we use integration on this. Okay. So now, what is phi n of x given? Phi n of x is given as Cn into 1 minus x square power n. We'll just substitute that. And Cn is a constant, as I told. It does not depend on dx, so I can take Cn outside the integration. Now integration from 0 to 1, okay, minus 1 to 1, 1 minus x square power n is there. But 1 minus x square power n is an even function. There is something called even function. If f of minus x is equal to f of x minus x is equal to f of x, means the function f is called an even function. If f of minus x is equal to minus of f of x, then it is called odd function. So here it is an even function. If you take a negative value of x, still the function will become same, f of x itself. So if that is the case, in integration, a definite integral identity is there. That is, if you have minus 1 to 1, I can remove this negative side and multiply by 2 and take it from 0 to 1. This should be like in the form minus a into minus a to a. So I can write 2 into Cn, 0 to 1, 1 minus x square power n dx. So now I remove this 1 by root n. How? 1 by root n is always less than or equal to 1. For all n, 1, 2, 3 and goes on. Suppose you take n is equal to 1, it will be 1 by 1, which will be equal to 1 itself. If you take 2, it will be 1 by root 2, will be less than 1. And go on taking 1 by root 3, 0.7, and the value will go on increasing, go on decreasing. So when you increase n here, 1 by root n will go on decreasing. So if that is the case, when you have the when you integrate from 0 to 1 the function, that value will be always greater than when you integrate from 0 to 1 by root n. Okay. So now I will choose this one, 1 minus x square power n. I have deduced something here, the equation 6. I got 1 minus x square power n is greater than 1 minus nx square. So I use this condition here. Instead of 1 minus x square power n, I use 1 minus nx square. So greater symbol. Now I integrate. This is easy to integrate, not as this. So I will integrate this. That will be equal to, integration will be equal to 2 into Cn. Integration of 1 will be x itself, integration of nx square will be nx cube by 3, 0 to 1 by root n. And this will be equal to 2 into Cn. Substitute that value, 1 by root n minus 1 by 3 root n. How? If you substitute instead of x 1 by root n, it will be like n 1 by n power 3 by 2, and 1 n get cancelled there. You will get only 1 by 3 power root n. So take 1 by 3 common, it will become 2 by 3 root n, and once again this 2 is multiplied, you will get at the end as 4 by 3 Cn 1 by root n. So this whole thing is greater than this value. But 4 by 3 is greater than 1. Whenever you have a bigger number in numerator, a bigger number, and smaller number in denominator, it will be greater than 1. Whenever you have smaller number in numerator and bigger number in denominator, it will be less than 1. When it is equal, it will be equal to 1. When two values are equal, it is equal to 1. So here 4 by 3, 4 is bigger than 3, so 4 by 3 is greater than 1. So this is like you can multiply 1 into Cn root by n. So 4 by 3 is greater than 1. So this whole thing is greater than Cn divided by root n. So once again, this one is greater than Cn by root n. But we use this idea now because that's how we will get Cn itself. So we will take this left hand side is equal to 1. The left hand side is equal to 1. So what we get by using this is 1 is greater than Cn divided by root n. That's what we'll get by using this one and the condition, this condition. So if I take root n to another side, what I'll get, root n is greater than Cn. So take it as equation 7 maybe and leave this. Okay, don't take this as equation 7. We are using this now in Qn of x. So what is Qn of x we have assumed? This Qn of x is this one, Cn into 1 minus x square power n. So we deduce this because we know Cn is less than something. Cn is less than root by n. So I can write this Qn of x, which is nothing but Cn into 1 minus x square power n, is less than root n into 1 minus delta square power n. So if you ask what is delta here, here delta is a number which is less than mod x and which is less than 1. Then how it will be greater? This 1 minus delta square power n is greater. This will be greater because delta square is less than 1 value. This 1 minus delta square is also less than 1. And if you decrease the delta, 1 minus delta will go on increasing. For example, let me take delta is equal to 0.3. 1 minus 0.3 will be 0.7, right? If I take 1 minus 0.3, it will be equal to 0.7. So if I increase this delta by I'll take 0.5, 1 minus 0.5 will be equal to 0.5. Here it was 0.7 and here it is 0.5. So if you increase this delta, 1 minus delta square power n is go on decreasing. So if I choose delta itself less than the x, modulus x, then this whole value will be less than this value. Because always I am taking x value greater than delta. It should not be greater than, it should be greater than equal to, okay? Both it should be greater than equal to. Correct there. This is greater than equal to. Then if you choose in that way, even this one will be greater than equal to Cn 1 minus x square power n. Now take it as equation 7. Correct this two things. One is here greater than or equal to, here also greater than or equal to, here also greater than or equal to. So we got Qn of x is less than root n into 1 minus delta square power n, where delta is less than modulus of x less than 1. Why modulus of x? You will get to understand later. Or even here you can tell because it is squared here. You take without modulus also, the value will be same. So we'll take modulus. So now, what happens if limit n tends to infinity q1 of x? We got a polynomial, we just constructed a part of the polynomial q1 of x. So what happens if we take limit n tends to infinity q1 of x? q1 of x is given by this, not given by that. Here once again it is a mistake. Limit n tends to infinity q1 of x is less than or equal to, because here we use less than or equal to, we are taking this one and this one together. I am not having this now. I am substituting limit on that. So limit n tends to infinity q1 of x will be less than or equal to limit n tends to infinity root n into 1 minus delta square power n. So as I already told, delta square will be a value less than 1. So 1 minus delta square, once again a value less than 1 itself. So this whole thing will be less than 1 means it will be something like 1 by 2, 1 by 3, 1 power 5, 1 power 5, 1 by 5 and so on. So I'll take it as 1 by a and whole power n. So this is nothing but 1 by a power n, which is a geometric sequence. So together if I multiply this, root n, what I'll get? Root n divided by a power n. This is how I will have the value. If I take limit n tends to infinity, this will be in infinity by infinity form. You can just substitute instead of n as infinity, so it will be a infinity by infinity form. So we cannot directly write the value. What we'll do, we use L'Hospital rule or L'Hopital's rule. That is, differentiate numerator by itself and denominator by itself. So limit n tends to infinity, root n divided by a power n will be equal to limit n tends to infinity. What is the differentiation of root n? It will be 1 by 2 root n. What is the differentiation of a n? That is n into a power n minus 1. So n terms all there in denominator only. If you take n tending to infinity, it will be something like 1 by infinity form, which is equal to 0. So that's why 1 by delta square power m is tending to 0, or together this whole thing is tending to 0. But what I had here, I had the symbol less than or equal to. So if you have a function which is bigger than the function which we needed, itself is convergent to 0, then the function which is below that also converges to 0 itself. That is by comparison test of, not comparison test, it is the proof theorem in sequences. So Q1 of x converges to 0 uniformly as n tends to infinity on delta less than modulus of x less than equal to 1. So this is uniform convergence, not uniform continuity. Take it as equation 8. Now we define the polynomial which we needed, which converges to f of x, or we are trying to tell that converges to f of x. So let's take it as Pn of x, which will be in terms of Qn of x and f of x. So how I'll define Pn of x? I'll define Pn of x where integration from -1 to 1 f of x plus t into Qn of t into dt. Remember, here the function polynomial is a polynomial of x, but the integration in terms of t, not x. Okay, x is there only in f of x plus t. And we already know f of x is equal to 0 beyond 0, 1. But here integration is around -1 to 1. So if I have the interval, this is -1 and this is 1, I can divide it into two parts in the middle as 0. So -1 to 0 and 0 to 1. And function from here to here is 0 itself. F of x is equal to 0 itself. And 0 to 1 only it is varied, a continuous function. So I can redefine this whole thing by this as -x to 1 minus x. That is, we are just generalizing the same polynomial which was there from -1 to 1 in terms of where it is from 0 to 1 as -x to 1 minus x. You can just check if you put x is equal to 0. If you take x is equal to 0, it will be 0 to 1 itself. And yeah, if you take 1, it will be the previous one. So now I will change a change of variable, or because x plus t and t are dummy variables, I'll take x plus t is equal to y. This is just we are putting a dummy variable. So put x plus t is equal to y, then differentiate what it will be dx. Sorry, x is a kind of constant here because integration in terms of dt. So when you differentiate this, x will be a constant, dt will be there, and y will become dy. Now take different values of t, which was there here. So take t is equal to -x, and if you take t is equal to -x by this condition, x minus x it will be 0, so y will be equal to 0. And now take t is equal to 1 minus x, which is there here in this equation. So x get cancelled, y will become 1. So by change of variable, what we did, this which was there in terms of x minus x and 1 minus x, one minute. Okay, so yes, so whenever t is equal to 1 minus x, I got y is equal to 1, and wherever t is equal to minus x, I got y is equal to 0. That's how we replace this. So wherever you have minus x, replace it by 0. Wherever you have 1 minus x, replace it by 1. And wherever you have x plus t, replace it by f of y. And wherever t is there, t is equal to y minus x, replace it by that. And dt will become dy here. So we got Pn of x along 0 to 1, f of y qn of y minus x dy. Now what is qn of y minus x? So we know qn of x is this one. Instead of x, take y minus x. So we'll get cn into 1 minus y minus x whole square power n. And if you just check this, it is nothing but a polynomial in x itself. That's what we needed. We needed a polynomial in x itself. So we got a polynomial in x. Now we have to show it converges to f of x. So note that if f of x is the real valid, so is Pn of x. Because the values okay, because that is depends on x itself. If x is real valued, this whole thing will be real valid only. So if f of x is real valued, so that Pn of x here. So since f of x is uniformly continuous, this is wrong, not convergent, it should be uniformly continuous on the interval 0, 1. Therefore, for given epsilon greater than 0, we are writing the uniform convergence definition. For a given epsilon greater than 0, there exists a delta greater than 0 such that absolute value of f of x minus f of y is less than epsilon by 2 whenever x minus y, absolute value of x minus y is less than not 2 delta, it is just delta. So this is uniform convergence definition we have. Uniform continuity definition we have. Now let me write take m as a maximum value of all f of x where x belongs to 0, 1 as supremum of f of x. Okay, so that will be the maximum value. At most, this is the value you will get for f of x. Now we will come to the last one, that is to show absolute value of Pn of x minus f of x is less than epsilon. So that's what till now whatever we did is for this only, to show this one is less than epsilon. So Pn of x, what is Pn of x? We just constructed Pn of x now. Where it is? Yeah, this is Pn of x. Okay. So it is given as f of y, qn of y minus x. So whatever is there f of y, I replace it by x plus t. Okay, we have this only. Where is this function? I'm just writing, not this one. I'm writing this only, Pn of x. Pn of x, the first one only, I just wrote here. And what is f of x? See, f of x is f of x itself, but we are using something else here, that is this condition. This condition, that is integration from minus 1 to 1, qn of x dx is equal to 1. Instead of the variable x, what I'll do, I'll take the variable t. So what it will be? Minus 1 to 1 qn of t into dt is equal to 1. But here, f is a function of x, but this is the function of t. So it does not depend on the integration which has dt. So f of x is something like a constant for this integration, because this variable is different. So f of x integration minus 1 qn of t dt is same as this. F of x will be like a constant because integration does not depend on that. Integration with the variable t here. And we knew that minus 1 to 1 f of t qn of t dt is equal to 1 itself. So f of x is multiplied by 1 for this. So I got these two things now. What I'll do is I'll take qn of t, which is there on both the places, and integration as common. So what was remaining? F of x plus t minus f of x inside. Now I will divide this modulus, which was there outside, I'll take it inside. So there is a mistake here. In this step, this should be less than or equal to. When you take a modulus which was outside the integration and it goes inside that, the value will be greater than the value which was there before. But qn of t is always greater than 0. That is, we just did here somewhere. Q of x is always 0. So qn of t, so that is phi of x, right? Q1 of x is always greater than 0. Somewhere we have shown where it is. Okay, I'm not getting where it is, but qn of x is greater than 0 always. So if that is greater than 0 always, the modulus is not needed for us. We can just write as Qn of t is there. And remaining one is same. Now, I'll divide, see what I was needed, how I define the function. I have defined not like for entire minus, for x minus, for, not for the entire x in between -1 and 1. I have defined here only for 0 to 1. So I have to divide this whole thing. How I'll divide? I'll divide in terms of delta, which I used here. Once again, this is a mistake. Delta is less than or equal to x, modulus of x less than or equal to 1. I use this one here. So I'll divide this whole integration from -1 to 1 as -1 to minus delta to plus delta, and the last one plus delta to 1. So I'll divide this whole integration into 3 parts. That can be done because integration a to b can be written as integration a to c plus integration c to b if c is between a and b. So delta is in between -1 and +1, which is given by here. Okay, I use this one. It is given by here. Delta is less than 1. So I can write this 3 terms. But see here, I already told, what did I tell? M is a supremum of f of x for all x belongs to 0, 1. So M will be the maximum value for any x you take in between 0, 1. So this whole thing, f of x, modulus of f of x plus t minus f of x will be less than modulus of f of x plus t plus modulus of f of x, where each of these terms, modulus of f of x plus t is less than this m, and f of t also less than this m, because the maximum value of modulus of f of x will be less than m itself. So whatever value you put inside f, it will be always, f of that value will be always less than m. So this whole thing will be less than 2m, m plus m, so 2m. And even this also here is less than 2m. But not for this, because see, it may be less than 2m, but what is our aim? Our aim is to show this is less than epsilon. So for that we are making so many tricks to show it is less than epsilon. So we'll just make this one is less than, this thing is less than 2m, this thing is less than 2m, qn of t will remain same. So I'll get 2m into -1 to minus delta qn of t dt, and this one also 2m qn of t dt. Here we got less than epsilon by 2. How? If you have less than between minus delta and plus delta, f of x plus t minus f of x is less than epsilon by 2 here, because x minus y is less than delta. We are using this condition of uniform continuity to show that this is less than epsilon by 2. You can just check x minus y is, modulus of x minus y is less than delta, not 2 delta. Less than delta means it is something like x minus y is in between plus delta and minus delta. So difference between any 2 points here is taken in between this. So f of x minus f of y will be less than epsilon by 2. So I can write this one is less than epsilon by 2 minus delta to plus delta qn of t dt. Now we'll just talk about this first. Integration from minus delta to plus delta qn of t dt is less than -1 to 1 qn of t dt. How? Because we are choosing delta less than 1. I have just choose here the delta. Here we have choose delta less than 1. Okay, so that's why this whole thing or this integration is a bigger value than this value, because minus delta is greater than minus 1 and plus delta is less than minus 1, less than 1. So this will be integrated with bigger area. But I know what is the value of this. This value is nothing but equal to 1 itself. So this whole thing will be less than, okay, this thing is less than 1. So this whole thing epsilon by 2 into this will be less than 1 into epsilon by 2. And Qn of t will be less than Cn into 1 minus delta square power n. How I got this? Once again, I'll go here with this condition. This condition, Cn into 1 minus x square power n is less than root by n 1 minus delta square power n whenever you take delta less than modulus of x less than 1. That's what we are doing here. We are taking delta less than 1, or for all the x between delta and 1. There is one more way of telling, all the modulus of all the value of x which is between delta and 1. That's what there here. All the values are between delta and 1 itself. Modulus of delta, all the values of modulus of x is between delta and 1. So we can use that Cn into 1 minus delta square power n. Even here I will do the same, because once again the values are modulus of x is between delta and 1 itself. So I can do that. So this here we have the symbol less than. Now what we'll do next is I'll integrate these things, because there was no variable. Integration will be t from minus 1 to minus delta, and the final value you will get as 1 minus delta. Even here the value will be 1 minus delta. Now add these two things together, you will get 4m Cn 1 minus delta square power n into 1 minus delta into epsilon by 2. Take it as equation 11. But here you can see something else, that from the equation 8, what is the equation 8? This is the equation 8. I can see this root n 1 minus delta square power n is converging to 0. Limit n tends to infinity, root n 1 minus delta square power n is converging to 0. So if I go with the limit definition for this, what it will be? Modulus of root n into 1 minus delta square power n, okay, minus 0 is less than epsilon by 2. That is by using the definition of limit of a convergence of a function. No, this is not a function. Limit of a sequence definition. So if you go back limit and see the limit of a sequence definition, you will get this. So I can say this whole thing from here to here is less than epsilon by 2. Or to say, even 4m is a constant number, does not depends on this. So together with all these things, 4m into Cn 1 minus delta square power n 1 minus delta, I can say it is less than epsilon by 2. Because I can find a bigger number n such that this whole thing is less than epsilon by 2. It depends on n itself. So if you choose a very big number n, what I'll get, Pn of x minus f of x, modulus of Pn of x minus f of x, which is given by this, is less than epsilon by 2 plus epsilon by 2, which is equal to epsilon itself. For all n greater than or equal to m, and for all x belongs to the interval 0, 1. By choosing n sufficiently large, because if you are not choosing sufficiently large, this 4m can be a very big number and it is not possible to find. So here m is independent of x because there is a maximum value, and thus Pn of x converges to f of x uniformly on the interval 0, 1. So what it's saying is like for all x it is true because we have m here. M is a big number, for all that it is bounded here. So limit n tends to infinity Pn of x is equal to f of x for all x belongs to 0, 1 uniformly on 0, 1. So this is a very important theorem. We proved Pn of x converges to f of x. That is, any polynomial we could find a polynomial, a sequence of polynomial which is converges to a function f of x, which is a continuous function. F of x is a uniformly continuous function. You can just change here. It is with the statement also. F of x be a uniformly continuous real valued function. You can write like this. That is better way of writing. So I told so many mistakes also. Please correct that. And this finishes this theorem. Now I'll give some 15 minutes break and I'll do the next topic, contraction principle. And we have one more theorem, a small theorem, and that finishes this unit. So now it is 10:30. Okay, now it is 10:30. I'll start at 10:45. Please join with the same link which I have given. I sent the link in group, right? Please join through the same link. So I'll stop here at this moment.